My first guest tonight developed his taste for acting in prison. Yikes. He then went on to Yale, then Broadway, where he earned 2 Tony Award nominations for his performance in The Piano Lesson and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Please welcome the star of Rock, Charles Dutton, folks. The big guy.
Yeah.
How you doing, Charles?
I'm doing okay. Yourself?
Now, I'm good. Now, the name Rock is, that was your name from when you were a kid, right?
Yeah. I got it at about 8 years old. In my neighborhood, we used to have, instead of snowball fights, we used to have rock battles. I had a habit of trying to lead the charge, when I thought the other guys had run out of rocks. And I would get my head bust, at least twice a month. And so my mom and dad started calling me Rockhead. And I had an amateur boxing career. Yeah. And the head disappeared, and they called me Rock.
Yeah.
Everyone calls me that.
My childhood nickname was Footballs, and it was sort of the same sort of story. Where I would... Footballs, come on, lighten up. Now, what is it you learned to act? You got your first taste of acting in prison? No.
Yeah, I had spent 7.5 years in prisons in the state of Maryland for manslaughter, possession of deadly weapons, and assault on a correctional officer. I know that sounds horrible, but they were all mitigating circumstances.
Well, manslaughter always sounds worse than murder to me, even. Murder 1 sounds like a basic college course. But manslaughter, man, that is dragging Stephen Boyd under the chariot.
I got in trouble.
You were a young man.
17 years old, and got in a fight with a guy. He nearly killed me. And he lived, I lived and he died. And
Baltimore's mean streets, wasn't it?
It's no tougher than any place else. But I got sentenced to 5 years and got out in a couple of years and went right back in for possession of deadly weapons. And then I got an additional 8 years for fighting a guard. And I was a radical at the time, I was...
You got 8 years for that, man?
Well, yeah, I basically got, on a serious note, I got 5 years for killing a black man and 3 years for hitting a white man.
Well, I don't know that enters that. I'm just amazed that you just fought with you.
Yeah, it was a prison fight with a guard. Yeah.
I'm just surprised it's that stringent. But I guess once you get in there, the rule book's kind of.
Yeah, it's a little different, than the street. But it's a little different.
Now, I'm always amazed. Not that I've met that many people who have been in prison, but I've seen your show a couple times, and I've seen you on talk shows. You seem like such a jovial, bright, self-contained man. When you look back on that, the 17-year-old kid who killed somebody, what, is that a different person? Or I'm always amazed by that phenomenon. I can't imagine you.
Well, no, it was...
Just survival?
The problem with me growing up was that I never looked the part as a tough guy. I always considered myself a gentleman. I always respected elderly people, my parents, my friends' parents. But I just had a violent kind of karma around me. And so guys would come into the neighborhood and say, "Who is that Rock? He don't look so tough to me." Bam!
Right.
And I'd get into a fight. I never started fights. I would end them, but I wasn't the kind of guy who would start fights.
Yeah.
But so I was living a sort of a knucklehead existence through many years of my life and wind up paying for it, in prison.
Well, are you one of the... maybe the anomaly that the prison system saved you? It seems like in some ways it amplifies problems, but certainly you seem to have resurrected your life.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, it has nothing to do with rehabilitation. It has more to do with an inmate in the solitude of their cell, looking in the mirror,
right,
and then saying, I'm tired of this.
Right.
I've had enough of it. And then you somehow go about trying to discover your own humanity. And once you get that, you see that you understand the responsibility that you have for causing destruction in your own community.
Yeah.
And accepting that responsibility and trying for some kind of redemption, It has nothing to do with prison programs and all that. It has to do with the individual.
Very ironic that in the belly of the beast, as it were, one would get in touch with one's own soul.
Well, that's sort of a sad case with the guy who wrote it,
Right.
But,
and Abbott. Well, we'll be right back with Charles Dutton after this, folks. Commercial time. We're back with the Rockman, and now you do your sitcom. I'm sure is always taped. You know, they have a pretty strict regimen, but this week you're doing it live for the first time.
All the way live. You know.
Now, what's Fox's instinct there? The halftime thing went so well, they thought they might roll the dice.
I don't know. Did the halftime? I don't know if it went so well. I don't know.
Well, for everybody but around 3 people in the world.
But no, what Fox was taking advantage of was the fact that it's a stage-trained cast,
right?
And everyone's from the theater, and I think it's a cast that can do it, you know. And the idea was sprung up, and they asked the cast, "Would you guys be for it?" And we looked at each other, and I had been complaining about not being able to flex your stage muscles, and so here we are, you know. So people are placing bets on who's going to mess up lines, you know, and stuff like that.
Probably won't be Garrett, because he's got a background in Garrett Morris.
Probably because he won't have that much to do. Garrett, I didn't mean that.
A lot of SNL alumnus go on the little.
No. No. It's going to be fun. It's scary because it is live, you know. And you know, if a light falls out of the sky, we have to deal with it, you know. If you flub a line, you have to be witty enough, like you know, you have to be witty enough.
Yes,
to continue.
I know. Hey, we got a clip from Rock here. Set it up for us.
Oh, well, this is a clip where there's a sanitation strike, and so Rock has been out of a job for a month or so, and so he has to get a job at the hospital with his wife, and she kind of, bullies him around a little bit. Eleanor, I ain't giving this guy a sponge bath.
Rock, it's part of your responsibility.
Well, that may be so, but I ain't gonna do it.
Rock, this is not negotiable.
I'm not doing it.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Rock, you are doing it.
No, I'm not. I ain't doing it.
Give me the damn sponge. I'll do it myself. Now, Rock, albeit a worthy project, certainly in some ways is much different than Broadway, where you've got your training. You ever? I'm not demeaning this, obviously, but you ever miss the?
Oh, sure. Every day. You know, when you're training in theater, the tendency is for most immature stage actors to think, "I'll never do television." Who, me? Television? Then they do anything to pay their rent. But the thing is that you get a series, and you feel as a stage actor, the longer you do television, the more inclined you are to lose your stage muscles and your stage reflexes and insightfulness about life and the world and everything, because that's what the theater represents, trying to advance civilization. And you're sort of on the tube, and you're thinking, well, I got a good paycheck, I pay my car note and the house, and I'm living well. And
yeah, it's like hitting a clock, although a very exotic clock. I mean,
well, don't get me wrong. I'm having a time of my life.
I'm not saying you don't put into it, but it is a place you can go each day, park the car, go in, work, go home, and it just seems a little bit more normal to have a steady gig. Now, I can't imagine when you talk about flexing your stage muscle that, I saw Lithgow once in M. Butterfly. I saw him in the afternoon. I knew he had to do it again that night. I thought, my God, how do they crank up for this again? At some point, are you in touch with that live audience, or is it just robotic out there?
I think actors work different ways, but for me, it is indeed. This may sound a little cliche-ish, but it is indeed a challenge every night to go out on the theater in front of a new audience, because they laugh at different places,
Right.
And some audiences will sit there, all night and say, well, you haven't done anything to move me. But it is a challenge every night, so it's fresh stimulus, and though you can be physically exhausted, but the character isn't.
Right.
And they take over, and you're out there until
it crystallizes really quickly that each night is individual too when it goes awry, doesn't it? Because I used to do stand-up comedy, and you'd get into that groove where you'd be on autopilot, kind of thinking, well, I'm hitting 995 here, it's going to work. And then one night it just horribly goes wrong.
Oh,
it's like
man, that's
damage control. You start sealing down chambers that are flooding.
Absolutely. I had one instance in my career in the stage where I totally blanked out. And I was doing a production of The Piano Lesson, and I had these big speeches one after the other, and I thought I was cooking, like popping. And I said that to myself. I said, oh, you cooking now. And after that split second, if someone in the audience had said, what's your name? I would have had to say, I was
cooking now.
I mean, it's a fear that hits you. That's amazing. I mean, I just perspired profusely. You know, it's very scary stuff.
It's the weird. I was doing a show in front of Bush one night, and it was a press corps dinner, and he laughed really hard at something. It was such a surreal moment. I thought, Jesus, the president's cracking up over here. I got completely lost, and I thought, oh, God, I'm going to look like an ass in front of the whole world. And I said, it's the president, damn it. Grab the reins. You know, and you just kind of pull it back and get it together.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I go on too much about myself. Well, Rock, Chuck Dutton, good to meet you, buddy.
Right,
thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Coach Dutton, we'll be right back. Comedian Coffee.